Have you ever looked at the incredibly wacky, elastic, and just completely cartoonish surface of the world's most popular pirate story and wondered, is there something way deeper hiding underneath all this? I mean, you see a rubber boy bouncing around the sea, and you'd be forgiven for thinking it's just pure chaotic fun. But actually, beneath that surface hides a profoundly deep mythological blueprint, one that literally spans centuries and continents.
Welcome to This Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because, wow, we are going on a captivating journey through some of the absolute deepest, most intricate hidden lore of this entire series. We're going to completely reframe how you look at this epic story of liberation, tyranny, and destiny. We'll be pulling directly from real academic research, ancient mythological texts, and the deepest, darkest corners of the series' world building. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The hidden mythic blueprint. 2. Luffy, the modern Hanuman. 3. Imu, the demonic tyrant. 4. Freedom versus absolute control. 5. The Wheel of Dharma. And finally 6. A destined mythological clash.
All right, jumping right in with Section 1, the hidden mythic blueprint.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of what we're looking at, we first need to understand how the creator of this series essentially operates as a cultural alchemist. He takes all these incredible influences from diverse global traditions, throws them into his narrative cauldron, and blends them into something brand new. To ground this in some actual academic research, there's this really fascinating study from Rivera Publications that looks at the transformation of Indian folklore in Japanese anime. The researchers point out how anime constantly utilizes this massive web of Indian illusions, taking deities and folklore straight from the Hindu pantheon and molding them to fit entirely new mystical worlds. They literally take character depictions that are super rigid in ancient texts and make them totally malleable, adding all these new layers of meaning. And, as you'll see, this is exactly the kind of cultural fusion at play when we actually look closely at our favorite pirate protagonist.
Which brings us to Section 2, Luffy, the modern Hanuman. So, when our hero finally awakens his devil fruit, that legendary Gear 5 transformation isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill anime power-up. No way. It's actually this beautiful symphony of cultural nods pointing straight to the revered Hindu monkey god Lord Hanuman, who's a massive key figure in the ancient Ramayana epic. Let's break down these similarities, because this is where the puzzle pieces really snap together, right? So both Hanuman and Luffy possess these boundless elastic physical powers, and they can both change their size at will. Plus, Hanuman had this completely enormous appetite, so big actually that as a kid he flew up and tried to eat the literal sun because he thought it was a ripe fruit. And what happened next? The king of gods, Indra, struck Hanuman down with lightning. But as an apology, the gods gave Hanuman a boon of invincibility to lightning and weapons, which, let's be real, flawlessly mirrors our rover hero's complete immunity to electricity and blunt force. Furthermore, both of these characters fight with this joyful, mischievous, almost cartoonish exuberance that doesn't just defeat their enemies, but actually uplifts the spirits of everyone watching them. And finally, in the mythology, Hanuman was actually cursed to forget his full power until he was reminded of it. Sounds familiar, right? It perfectly echoes the hero's insanely long journey of discovery to finally awaken his true, ridiculous potential.
And honestly, this connection is made completely explicit in the series itself. The ultimate attack used to liberate the nation of Wano, it's literally called the Bajrang Gun. This is a direct, undeniable reference to Bajrang Bali, which is an alternate name for Lord Hanuman. It's also super fascinating to look at the ties to Diwali here, the Hindu festival of lights, which is all about celebrating the victory of light over darkness and good over evil. In some regions, the day right before Diwali is actually celebrated as Hanuman's birthday. This kind of cultural fusion just beautifully frames our hero as the ultimate bringer of dawn.
Okay, moving into the darkness. Section 3, Imu, the demonic tyrant.
So where there's a bringer of dawn, there obviously has to be a consuming darkness. Let's slow down for a second and shift our focus to the incredibly shadowy king of the world, that immortal ruler sitting on the empty throne, Saint Nerona Imu. The absolutely crucial thing to understand here is the terrifying nature of Imu's abilities. Imu wields something referred to as the Devil's Fruit, which grants them these insane, Lovecraftian powers of transformation and possession. At the core of this is something called domi reversi. It's a blend of Latin roots that indicate possessing a vessel and having a piece returned. Basically, it works literally like a terrifying game of reversi. Imu can form a blood oath with their victims, totally draining their lifespan and warping their free will to turn them into subservient, unkillable demonic puppets. Imu is an ancient evil, a founder of the world government from centuries ago, who maintains absolute control through zero empathy. I mean, they willingly committed a mass atrocity, completely vaporizing the entire kingdom of Lulusha, just because it happened to be geographically close by, just chilling.
Now let's see how this builds out our entire mythological framework. In the Ramayana epic, Hanuman actually assists in defeating Ravana, who is a tyrannical demon king. So if our hero is the modern Hanuman, then Imu is undeniably the series' Ravana. Imu perfectly represents a satanic archetype, a dark, horned entity demanding unquestioning obedience, seeking to completely wipe out the will of D and plunge the world into a controlled, flooded subjugation. This sets up Section 4, Freedom versus Absolute Control. And this really brings us to the core conflict of the entire narrative. Because this story, it's not merely about pirates fighting Marines. It is a massive ideological war between freedom and absolute control. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how visually diametric this opposition is. On the left, we've got the messianic archetype, the sun god Nika, completely embodying freedom, joy, light, the color white, and ultimate liberation. He leads simply by inspiring others to follow their dreams. But then on the right, the satanic archetype, Imu of the Nerona family. And get this, Imu's name actually has Japanese roots meaning to shun or to detest. Imu completely embodies control, tyranny, darkness, the color black, and absolute domination, ruling entirely through brainwashing covenants and fear. It is literally the ultimate evil counterpart dynamic.
Let's transition to Section 5, the Wheel of Dharma.
With all of this mythological framework locked in, we can move to the grand unveiling. We're going to connect these ancient religious parallels to the most foundational, mind-blowing mystery of the entire series. So, what exactly is the Will of D? It is the dramatic question that has literally haunted fans for decades. We know that those who carry the D initial are considered the natural enemies of the gods, meaning the celestial dragons led by Imu. But what does that letter actually stand for? Well, the answer might just lie in a brilliant piece of wordplay and ancient philosophy: the Wheel of Dharma. In Dharmic religions, the Dharma chakra, or the Wheel of Dharma, is a sacred symbol representing the cosmic law of right living, truth, and the natural order of the entire universe. Now, when you realize that the single most iconic symbol of any pirate's journey is the literal steering wheel of their ship, the phonetic pun of the Wheel of D, blending with the Will of D, creates just an absolute mind-blowing aha moment. Let's look at how this brilliantly maps onto the story's world building. In Indian mythology, the ideal king is called a Chakravartin, which directly translates to a wheel turner. Now, there are three types of these wheel turners. First, you have the Chakravala, an emperor who rules over all continents, which, let's be honest, perfectly describes Imu and the world government ruling the four blues. Second is the Dvipa, a ruler governing one single continent, which maps flawlessly to the pirate emperors governing the New World. And third, the Pradesha, a local monarch leading a single island or kingdom.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, a destined mythological clash. So you might be wondering, where does our rubbery hero actually fit into this grand hierarchy of kings and rulers? Well, the answer brings all our threads of light, darkness, and ancient destiny together into one cohesive, breathtaking narrative. Take a second to absorb this incredible quote regarding the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. He was said to have been a great man who could have chosen to become a wheel-turning king, but instead became the spiritual counterpart to such a king, a wheel-turning sage, that is, a warrior of liberation. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact nature of our protagonist. He doesn't want to conquer anything. He doesn't want to be a tyrant who controls the seas. He wants to be the pirate king simply because he firmly believes the pirate king is the person with the most freedom in the entire world. He is the ultimate spiritual counterpart to Imu. He is the wheel-turning sage, the warrior of liberation. As the shadow of Imu stretches across the world with overwhelming haki and terrifying demonic covenants, the drums of liberation are beating louder than they ever have before. We are quite literally watching the culmination of an 800-year-old mythological war. So I'm going to leave you with this to ponder. When the final battle inevitably erupts, will the modern warrior of liberation finally be the one to shatter the eternal cycle of the demonic tyrant? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and hey, keep your eyes open, because every single chapter adds a brand new piece to this incredible mythological puzzle.